For canceling my sister's lease when she uninvited me for not being family? My name is Natalie. I am 35 years old and I am a dentist at a private clinic in downtown Los Angeles. I am not complaining. I do well for myself. I have worked my tail off to get here. Years of school, sleepless internships, and finally I have a peaceful life. 3 years ago, I bought my house in Los Feliz. It is not a mansion or anything, but it is mine. It has 2 bedrooms and what used to be a study that I turned into my personal library. Books everywhere from floor to ceiling. That room is my safe place. That is where my anger subsides, where I think, and where I can breathe again. My older sister is named Melissa and she is 38 years old. She works part-time at a large supermarket in Van Nuys. She has 2 kids, Isabella 10 and Connor 8. The kids honestly are good. Restless, yes, but sweet. Her husband Derek works making furniture at a small factory in the city of Industry, or he used to. His pay depended on how many orders came in. There were good months and months where things got tough and Melissa would call me. I almost never said no. Family is family, I repeated to myself. I always believed that. My parents live in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Van Nuys. Feels even smaller when we are all there. My dad, Robert, retired from the United States Postal Service. My mom, Linda, worked for years in a school cafeteria until arthritis got the best of her, and she could no longer continue. With their pensions, they barely get by. Every Sunday we have lunch at their apartment, and it is chaos. Isabella and Connor running around, the noise from the television, my dad discussing the game with Derek, my mom and Melissa talking about what happened in the neighborhood. The apartment fills with voices, plates, laughter, and also friction. And I, even though I would leave with a headache, still loved those Sundays, or so I thought, until it stopped feeling like family and started feeling like an obligation. That Sunday started out like any other. I left the clinic late because I stayed behind to do paperwork. On the way, I stopped at a bakery near my work and bought some pastries for my mom. Danishes, cookies, the kind she loves to have with her coffee. I arrived and when I walked in, everyone was already there. Melissa was in the kitchen helping my mom. Derek was on the couch with my dad watching the game. The kids were lying on the floor with their tablets, but something felt off. The air felt heavy, like when you know someone is angry but no one dares to say it. Melissa barely looked at me when I said hello. Derek did not even let out his usual, "What is up?" Even the kids were quieter than normal. "What is wrong?" I asked my mom as I handed her the bag of pastries. My mom did not answer me. She just shook her head and kept stirring whatever was in the pot, as if she were incredibly busy. But I knew she was listening to everything. I looked for Melissa. I found her in the living room with her arms crossed, watching the television without really seeing it. Her eyes were swollen. "Melissa, what happened?" She turned around and her face crumpled. It was obvious she had been crying. "Derek's factory closed," she said. "They declared bankruptcy last week." I felt a knot in my stomach. "No, how awful. I am so sorry." Came out immediately. "But he will find something. There are no more places." "Where?" Derek snapped dryly without taking his eyes off the game. "Where is there another furniture factory around here? There are no more. They left, they closed, and they never came back." I sat down slowly as if walking on eggshells. "Well, maybe until something in your field comes up, you can get something temporary just to get by." Derek finally looked at me. His jaw was clenched. "I am a cabinet maker. That is what I am. That is what I have been for 15 years. "Yes, I know," I said, trying not to raise my voice, "but for a few months." I remembered something and said it carefully. "Look, the director of the clinic where I work, Dr. Reynolds, recently said they need someone for maintenance, fixing things, checking equipment, helping with the garden, that sort of thing. They pay well, with health insurance and retirement benefits." Derek did not even let me finish. "I am not going to run errands." "Derek, it is not running errands," I said. "It is honest work and they do pay well." "No." He cut me off again firmly. I already said no. The room went quiet except for the television. Even Isabella and Connor looked up as if we were the show. I wanted to tell him that at his factory there were entire days without orders, that they spent their time sitting around waiting, that at the clinic he would at least have a fixed salary, but I bit my tongue. Then Melissa spoke. Her voice was calm but freezing cold. Until Derek finds something in his field, you are going to have to support us. I felt my mouth go dry. What do you mean, me? Well, yeah. Who else? Melissa said, as if it were obvious. How much are we talking about? I asked. With $2,000 a month we can manage. I almost choked on my water. What, Melissa? That is a lot. It is for rent, food, school, everything. And also to pay the debts we have until Derek finds something in his field. She answered as if she were asking to borrow a blender. I have helped you before when you have asked, I said. But this is different. I cannot do that. You cannot or you do not want to? Melissa threw at me, her voice already rising. Derek, tell her what we talked about. Derek lowered the volume on the television and spoke like a judge. Your sister thinks that since you do not have a family of your own, well, it is your turn to help us. It is not like you have kids to support. Those words hit me like a slap in the face. I saw my mom in the kitchen acting like she could not hear, but her body was tense. I saw my dad looking at his hands, avoiding my gaze. I saw the kids watching us as if we were on a game show. I am not refusing to help, I said slowly. I offered Derek a job. A good job. If he does not want to take it, that is not an emergency, that is a choice. Melissa turned red. Mom, tell her. My mom appeared in the doorway, drying her hands on her apron. Natalie, your sister needs help. You have no children. You have no husband to support. It is time you stop being so selfish and support your family. Selfish, I repeated in disbelief. Yes, selfish, my mom said. My eyes burned, but I did not cry. I am not being selfish. I am being logical. I offered help in the form of a job and they rejected it. I cannot support people who do not want to help themselves. Derek stood up. Let's go, Melissa. Grab the kids. They left without saying goodbye to me, and my parents stayed. They gave me a full hour of scolding. That family supports each other, that you do not treat your own like that how dare I. My mom said she was disappointed. My dad said I did not understand because I have never had the burden of a family. I drove away in silence, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. When I got home, I went into my library and sat down surrounded by my books. I wondered if they were right, if I really was selfish, if I should have just said yes and left it at that. But Derek could work. He was choosing not to, and that, to me, was the real problem. 2 weeks passed without a single call from my family, and to be honest, it was a break. Before that lunch from hell, my cell phone would ring constantly. Melissa asking for grocery money. My mom letting me know they were behind on the electric bill. My dad saying Derek's car had broken down and asking if I could chip in. Now nothing. Silence, a beautiful, peaceful silence. I went to work, came back, read, put on a series without interruptions. I did not feel that guilt every time I bought something for myself. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. I focused on work. I saw more patients. I started an online refresher course I had been putting off for months. I even completely rearranged my library by author now, not by subject. It felt good to focus on my life, but of course that could not last. The call came on a Tuesday late in the afternoon. It was getting dark and I was on the couch with a cup of tea and a mystery novel when my cell phone rang. Melissa on the screen made my stomach tie in a knot. I almost did not answer. I hovered my finger over the button, but curiosity won out. Hello, Natalie, Melissa said. Her voice was different. She was not yelling, but she was not being affectionate either. We need to talk. Can you come to Mom and Dad's apartment, please? Melissa almost never said please unless it was something serious. I sighed and looked at my quiet evening. All right, give me an hour. The drive to Van Nuys felt longer. It was already late, and amid the traffic and the lights, I kept thinking, surely they want money for what now? I also thought, even though I was embarrassed to admit it, what if they are coming to apologize? I knocked on the door. My dad opened it. When I walked in, everyone was there in the living room, sitting as if they were posing for a photo. Melissa, Derek, the kids. My mom in her armchair knitting, the needles clicking like a clock. They all looked at me. Derek cleared his throat. I found a job. My eyebrows shot up. Oh, that is great. Where? In Plano, Texas. It is a company that makes custom furniture, the expensive kind for very wealthy homes, Derek said. A friend of mine, Brian, from when we studied the trade, works there. He put in a good word for me. He had been telling me about this for days and it just came through. I felt a genuine spark of happiness for them. That is excellent, Derek. When do you start? As soon as we get there, Melissa said, and that was when I saw the but on her face. That is the problem. What problem? I asked, even though I already knew. We do not have money for the move, Melissa said. We need $7,500. I blinked. What? Derek started counting on his fingers, as if it were a very reasonable list. A moving truck to take our things, first month's rent and security deposit for the apartment, application fees, gas, tolls, and money to live on until I get paid my first paycheck. A part of me wanted to laugh at the sheer audacity. 2 weeks ago they were demanding $2,000 a month with no end in sight. Now they wanted a large lump sum. But another part of me did the math. If they moved to Plano, maybe I would finally stop being their safety net. Pay once and be done with it. Purchase peace. If I give you this money, I said slowly, this is where it ends. No more calls, no more help us. It is over. After this, you manage on your own. Melissa nodded very quickly. Yes, of course. Derek is going to make good money there. We will not need anything anymore. I turned to Derek. Are you sure about the job? Brian says they are doing very well, he answered. Clients with a lot of money. They handle the paperwork and everything, and they are paying me almost double what I earned here. The words came out before I thought about it anymore. All right. Melissa stood up and hugged me tightly. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. My mom smiled for the first time in weeks. I knew you were not going to fail your family. That night, as strange as it sounds, was peaceful, even nice. My mom and Melissa started talking about having a farewell get-together, inviting uncles, cousins, and close neighbors. The kids were excited because there are pools over there and it is hot. Derek even looked more relaxed. We will have the farewell party this Friday, my mom said, so everyone can make it. Yes, this Friday night, Melissa said. Natalie, you are going to help us with the preparations, right? Yes, I answered. Whatever you need. I went home with cautious hope. I thought maybe this is how this gets fixed. They leave, I get my life back and with no more guilt. The next day I went to the bank. I opened a separate checking account in my name to set that money aside and not mix it with my expenses. I transferred the $7,500 into that separate account. I requested an additional debit card linked to that account with a limit. The idea was simple. Melissa could pay for moving expenses without constantly asking me for cash, but I could still oversee everything. And I would make the big payments. Melissa called me as soon as she saw the money reflect in the account. I cannot believe this is really happening, she said excitedly. Then she paused. Listen, Natalie, I need to ask you another favor. I felt my mood drop instantly. What is it? For the rent over there, they are asking us to sign with a co-signer or guarantor, she said quickly, as if wanting to skip over the weight of the sentence. You know Derek has a bad record because of the bankruptcy. Can you sign? It is just a formality. I stayed quiet. I knew what signing something like that meant, but I also thought, if the job is real, they will pay. And the sooner they left, the better. All right, I said. But this is the last one, Melissa. Seriously, you are the best sister in the world, she told me. And she hung up as if everything were normal. I called a friend, Sarah, who is a real estate agent. I explained that my sister was moving to Plano, that we needed to rent an apartment quickly, and that they were asking me to be the co-signer. Sarah moved fast, doing everything via video calls, messages, and emails. The next day she already had options. She sent me photos, locations, and conditions. We chose a simple one, nothing luxurious, but in a good area with easy access to Plano so Derek could commute to work. The deposit, the application fees, and the first month's rent were paid in advance. Everything from the account I opened. I signed as the co-signer on the digital contract using my documents. Everything seemed to be falling into place. The days went by amidst lists, boxes, and short phone calls. Melissa was busy organizing the farewell party. Derek was talking to Brian and the company. The kids were setting aside their favorite toys. I, for my part, was even getting my hopes up about closing this chapter without any more fights. Friday finally arrived. I admit, excited for the farewell party. I bought a bottle of red wine and a card for Melissa and Derek. My plan was to leave straight from work and stop by my parents' apartment for the get-together. That day at the clinic, I was doing a routine cleaning. My cell phone vibrated. I saw the notification out of the corner of my eye. It was a message from Melissa. I did not open it because I was with a patient. I thought she was probably confirming the time or asking me to pick up some ice. I finished, washed my hands, took off my gloves, and then I grabbed my cell phone, read the message, and my blood ran cold. You are not invited to the farewell party today. This is for real family, for people who actually support each other. I kept staring at the screen as if I did not understand. I read it 3 times. I called her immediately. She answered. What do you want? She said. What is that message, Melissa? I blurted out without taking a breath. Her voice came out cold. Exactly what it says. You are not welcome. Are you crazy? I just gave you guys $7,500. I signed the contract for you. What are you talking about? Melissa let out a laugh that was not funny at all. You helped us because you want us to leave. You want us far away so you do not have to deal with us. My mouth dropped open. That is not true. Of course it is. She continued as if she had rehearsed the speech. When we asked you for monthly support, you turned your back on us. You made it clear that Derek was not good enough for the job you offered. You have always looked down on us. My face burned with anger. I offered him a real job with a fixed salary and benefits. He rejected it out of pride. Oh yes, the great job to be your assistant, Melissa spat. And yes, I helped you guys with the move because I thought it was the best thing for your family, I said, gripping the cell phone tightly. Melissa raised her voice. You helped us because you are selfish and you envy me. Envy you about what? You envy me because I actually have a family, she said relentlessly. I have a husband. I have children. You have no one. You are all alone in that house with your books. I felt the blow in my chest. It was not sadness. It was a mix of rage and shame, as if I had been stripped naked in public. Do not talk nonsense, I managed to say. They are the truth, she fired back. Today is for people who truly love each other, not for someone who thinks money fixes everything. And she hung up. I stood in my cubicle looking at the phone as if it had burned me. My eyes filled with tears, but I did not cry. I was furious. I called my mom. It went straight to voicemail. 15 minutes later, I got a message from her. I agree with Melissa. Do not come today. I felt my hands shaking. I left work and drove home with my head burning. They do not want me at the farewell party, I thought. Perfect. But they are not taking my money either. The first thing I did was open the banking app and check the account. Most of the money was still there. They had already paid for some things, the truck, some deposits, but there was still a whole lot left. I blocked the additional debit card right then and there. I changed passwords. I logged out of all devices from the app. I activated the option requiring validation for any major transaction. In a matter of minutes, it was done. Then I called Sarah. Sarah, I need you to talk to the owner of the apartment in Plano. I want to cancel the contract I signed. Now. What happened? She asked, surprised. Family drama, I said, having no desire to tell the whole story over the phone. I will explain later, but I need to get out of that. Give me a moment, she said. I will check on it. I hung up. I opened the bottle of wine I had bought for the farewell party and poured myself a large glass. I sat down in my library and breathed slowly, trying to calm the shaking in my body. A while later, Sarah called me back. Good news, she told me. The landlord was flexible. Since the keys had not been handed over yet and nothing had been occupied, he agreed to rescind it. He will refund your deposit and the first month's rent, though some fees might not be recoverable. I felt a strange calm, as if I had taken off a heavy backpack. Thank you, I told her. Seriously, thank you. I hung up and blocked their numbers. Melissa, Derek, my mom, my dad, all of them. I knew that as soon as they found out they would want to yell, complain, manipulate, and I did not want to hear anything. That night I stayed alone with no get-together, no family, no fighting in my living room, just silence. Wine, books, peace. I slept like I had not slept in weeks. On Saturday morning, knocks on the door woke me up. It was not 2 taps. It was someone banging on it forcefully over and over again. I peeked out the window. Everyone was there. My mom, my dad, Melissa, Derek, and even the kids. All of them with hard expressions. Melissa with red eyes. Derek looking like he wanted to break something. I stood there for a second. I knew I could not hide. I opened the door. They did not even wait for me to say anything. They came at me and barged in, pushing the door as if they had the right to. "You blocked the account on me," Melissa yelled, still in the hallway. "Yes," I answered dryly. "We were leaving today. The truck was arriving in the morning." She shrieked as if I were the one to blame for her entire life. I shrugged. "Not my problem." Derek took a step toward me. "You cannot do this. I start work next week." "You should have thought of that before saying I am not family," I replied. My mom shook her head as if I were a monster. "Natalie, this is terrible. Even for you. This is just out of spite." "Spite?" I let out a short, mirthless laugh. "Yesterday you all told me I was not real family. You kicked me out of the farewell party after giving you $7,500. Well, congratulations. If I am not your family, I am not your safety net either." Melissa sat down on my couch without permission, her arms crossed. "I am not leaving until you fix this. Get up off my couch," I told her, pointing to the door, "and everyone get out of my house. If you do not fix it, I am going to report you to the police," Melissa threatened. My dad raised his hands, trying to play mediator. Let's see, calm down." "There is no more calming down," I said. "Get out right now." Derek turned red. "Do you know what kind of position you are leaving us in? I already accepted that job." "Then you should have treated me like family," I answered. Melissa started crying. "Please, Natalie, we are desperate. We already gave notice where we were renting. We have nowhere to go." I looked at her and felt a cold satisfaction that embarrassed me, but there it was. "Oh, and by the way," I said slowly, "I also canceled the apartment in Plano. Meaning, even if you had the money, you have nowhere to arrive to anymore." The silence was heavy. Everyone stared at me as if I had said something outrageous. Then the screaming started. Melissa saying I was evil, Derek complaining about his job, my mom crying that I was destroying the family, my dad trying to quiet them down. I just pointed to the door again. "Get out." "I am not leaving," Melissa said stubbornly, pressing her lips together. "Perfect," I said, taking out my cell phone. "Then I am dialing 911. Because this is my house. And you barged in by force." I started dialing. As soon as they saw I was serious, they got up as if they had been doused with cold water. They crowded toward the door. Derek muttering words under his breath. Melissa shooting me looks of hatred. My mom crying. "This is not over," Melissa yelled, already from the sidewalk. I closed the door. I locked it. I leaned against it for a second and, without thinking much about it, poured myself another glass of wine, even though it was barely around 10 in the morning. I never drink at that time. But that day I felt I needed it to calm the shaking. And the worst part is that it felt like the best decision I had made in years. The following weeks were the most peaceful of my adult life. I threw myself completely into my work. I saw more patients. I finally started working on a presentation I had pending for a dental conference. I signed up for a weekend seminar on new implant techniques. At home I rearranged the library again. This time I sorted the books by publication year. Yes, it was an exaggeration, but it kept me busy while my head processed everything. I also started cooking better meals for myself. Simple dishes, but well made. Rice, broth, salads, grilled steak one day, fish the next, things I did not do before because I was always stressed about the next family problem. About 3 weeks after that massive argument, I ran into Rachel Lee at the supermarket. She had been a friend of Melissa's since high school. I knew her by sight, from saying hello at gatherings, and from knowing she worked at a bank. Rachel always seemed to know about everyone's lives. I bumped into her in the produce section. She smiled at me with that "I already know everything" look on her face. "Natalie," she said, lowering her voice, "I heard what happened with Melissa and Derek." I braced myself, expecting the "she is your sister and family is sacred" lecture. But Rachel leaned in and whispered, "They told me they had to go live with your parents." I grabbed a bag of apples, feigning calmness. Oh, really? Yes, Rachel said. All 6 of them in that tiny apartment. Derek did not scrape together the money for the move to Plano, and look, in the end, he wound up getting a job loading boxes at a warehouse in the San Fernando Valley area. The kind that leaves your back completely wrecked. Melissa is going around telling everyone that Derek's lower back hurts, and that he is suffering. I felt a strange mixture of emotions. A part of me thought he brought it upon himself. Another part felt a little guilt because I knew Derek really did dream of that fine furniture job. I knew how excited he was. And Melissa? I asked, not wanting to but wanting to. Rachel grimaced. She is going around saying you ruined everything for them out of spite, that you did it out of jealousy, that you wanted to keep them trapped here. My guilt evaporated in a second. Oh, really? But hardly anyone believes her, Rachel said. I mean, everyone knows you have helped them with money for years. And when she tells the story, funnily enough, she always forgets to mention that she kicked you out of the farewell party. I nodded. I did not say much. Rachel touched my arm. Look, for whatever it is worth, I think you did the right thing. Melissa has always expected someone else to solve things for her. Maybe this will teach her something. I thanked her, said goodbye, and continued my shopping, but her words stuck with me the whole day. That night, sitting in my library with a glass of wine, I really thought about it. Yes, it hurt when they told me I was not real family. Yes, it infuriated me that they kicked me out of a farewell party I had paid for. But was my reaction too much? Derek was now lifting boxes and hurting his back in a warehouse. Melissa and the kids were squeezed into my parents' apartment. My parents were putting up with extra stress and noise. But then I remembered the look on Derek's face when he rejected the clinic job. The derogatory way he said, running errands. I remembered Melissa demanding $2,000 a month as if it were an obligation. I remembered my mom calling me selfish because I do not have kids. I remembered Melissa's text message. Cold, direct, humiliating. They made choices. Derek chose pride over a stable job. Melissa chose to attack me instead of being thankful. My mom chose to take a side without listening to the other. I offered real help. First with a steady job. They rejected it. Then with the move. And when they told me I was not family, I acted accordingly. Maybe it was out of anger. Maybe my harsh side did come out. But I was tired of being everyone's safety net while they treated me like an ATM, not a sister. As the days passed, the guilt faded. It became less intense and then almost disappeared. I started going out again. Nothing crazy, but I did give myself the chance to meet people. I even joined a book club at a library near my house. I took a ceramics workshop on the weekends. Simple things, but mine. My house started feeling like a home again. Not just a place where I hid from my family. I could buy something for myself without overthinking it. And I could make plans without waiting for the next emergency phone call. Every now and then I wondered how the kids were doing, if Isabella was adjusting to sharing a room, if Connor was doing alright, if Derek's back was really that bad, or if Melissa was exaggerating to get pity. I also thought about my parents, about their health, about how exhausting it must be to have people on top of you all the time. But I did not call, and neither did they. Sometimes I would run into acquaintances, old neighbors, friends of my mom. I noticed their stares, some with pity, others with judgment, and I learned not to take it personally. The truth is, in a family there is almost never just one bad guy and one good guy. Everything is more tangled. We all carry baggage. But I was sick and tired of always being the one who had to give in, sacrifice, fix things, pay up. I do not know if we will ever reconcile. Maybe one day Melissa will understand that I tried to help in the healthiest way possible. Maybe my mom will realize that I am not obligated to support healthy adults who choose not to work. Maybe Derek will accept that his pride cost them an opportunity. Or maybe none of that will happen. Maybe we will stay estranged forever. And for the first time I thought that maybe that is okay too. I am 35 years old. I have a career that took me years to build. I have a house I love. I have friends who love me for who I am, not for what I can give. I have hobbies, goals, and a life that does not revolve around other people's problems. If that makes me selfish, I can live with that. Comment. I've been reflecting a lot on this story lately. It reminds me how important it is to value our own worth. Setting clear boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for our well-being. We all have a responsibility to take care of ourselves first. True kindness means helping others without losing ourselves in the process. Sometimes choosing peace is the most loving thing we can do for everyone involved. Healing starts when we stop carrying burdens that aren't ours to carry. I hope this encourages you to think about the relationships in your own life. You deserve a life filled with respect and calm. Remember that your peace matters too. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.